Welcome back, my friends, to the Predictive Playbook. I'm your host, John Ryan. This is one of the more exciting shows I do every week with WagerTalk's PGA expert and soccer guru, I might add, Nick Borrman. This week we are at the Detroit Golf Club, and this is a course that was the architect is Donald Ross. And 1916, it has a lot of heritage to it. I definitely encourage you to take a look at their website. It tells you all about the many intricacies and the historical relevance of some of these holes from even before this land was developed into a golf course. I found it to be pretty cool reading. I'm sure Nick has played many Donald Ross courses as I have, and they have a character of being tree lined and tortoise-shelled greens, which means you could have some false fronts. But what you're not going to see is peat dye, pot bunkers. You're not going to see the ocean blowing in on you at 30 miles an hour. And as a result, this is a course that is going to be vulnerable to a winner of 20 or more under par, as we saw last year with Bryson DeChambeau making his appearance really in the golf world at this event. So welcome to the show, Nick. I'm very interested to hear who you like this week. And how is your week going so far?
Hey, John. Yeah, thanks for having me. So far this week, it's been quiet. I mean, Monday, Tuesday, a little bit of Euro action quarterfinals going on there, around a 16 actually. But yeah, just quiet this week. We do have Wimbledon going on, which I do play.
Yeah.
I do play the majors on the tennis circuit. So just a slow start there. And then, I like to spend a lot of time Monday, Tuesday, especially getting ready for this upcoming week's golf event. So kind of just been focusing a lot on that. Had Harris English last week, so was happy to bag that outright winner. And hopefully we can find one this week.
Well, you helped me with Harris English. And if you don't mind sharing a little story, kind of funny, you would think that I would know the rules in DraftKings by now, but I'm watching Sunday, and all of a sudden Harris English has that huge run, and once in a while I get superstitious. Like when I was coaching baseball, I wasn't afraid to step on the white lines, but you'll see a lot of managers, even at the Major League Baseball level, that's just forbidden territory to step on any lines whatsoever. Pitchers will come off the mound and skip over the white line. You'll see it. So this is my version of that with DraftKings. So I'm looking at the leaderboard and I'm going, whoa. I'm like afraid to even tell any family members. Like this is like nuts. Then they go into overtime, and I'm thinking, sudden death, and I'm thinking, as this thing keeps going on and on, 8 holes, I'm thinking, oh my goodness gracious, this is my moment. And there was 58,000 entries, and then at the end of the event when he won, I'm expecting to get credit for all those holes. And I look at the rankings, and I literally look at it, and my eyes must have popped out of my head. And I go, how in the world am I 134th? Yeah, I really was thinking that I was going to be looking at something like that was going to make me almost pass out. But you live and learn. And ironically, back when Ricky Fowler did so well at the PGA Players Championship, when he went 5 under over the last 3 holes or 4 holes, which will never be done again. I had him, and that was the previous best I had ever done. This is the best I have ever done in a large field tournament at DraftKings. And thanks to you, the Harris English was on my radar, but having you, convince me that that was a player to definitely have in the lineup. Obviously, I feel like I should buy you, a couple cases of IPAs or take you out for a round of golf somewhere, but we'll figure that out later.
Hey, I'm just glad to give some advice. No need for you still had to put the money in on your own wager
Yeah, $20.
So yeah, that's on you. But I'm glad to help. Glad to help.
Awesome. So who we recommending to play this week at this track? Like I said, it looks like even the bunkers don't look intimidating. In pros, when there's no intimidation out of a bunker, they actually aim for them because they can put a lot more spin on it, get it closer to the hole, and actually make some of these shots. But before you get started, and tell me if I'm wrong. When I was looking at the field yesterday, it looks like you have some aces, and then all of a sudden you go down the list a little bit, and then it drops off. Talent-wise, I would say. I mean, these guys are all incredibly talented, the best in the world at what they do. but the gap between the elite and then there's like no
Mhm.
middle ground, it seems. And obviously this week for DraftKings and some of these top 10, top 20, there's got to be some value down there in the second tier.
Oh, 100% there is. And that's where I'm always going to focus, especially when you only have, I consider about, five guys really that are in that top tier this week. There's, I think, maybe six total priced under 30 to 1, maybe seven, depending on the books you're looking at. So it's not that many. So when you have a top heavy field, as I like to say, a lot of the value, like you just mentioned, is coming in that next tier. And that's usually where I like to start. I can always, for people, especially doing fantasy and the daily fantasy, I can always mention one of the top guys just because it's you want to get a guy that is likely to be in near the leaderboard. I just don't like to bet him for outrights just because the value a lot of the times is taken away and sucked away when you only have three or four big names. They get all the credit and all the prices come off of them on the outright market. But as far as the top guys, you got Bryson. He was the winner last year. Length last year was a huge proponent of this tournament. I mean, you had DeChambeau first, Matthew Wolff second, but then that was the second year they played here. The first year they played here, Nate Lashley won it, and he's not a long guy. So while the answer was length last year, it wasn't 2 years ago when they played the first time. So, what does that mean? I'm not sure, but length is always an advantage here. It's bigger fairways, not a lot of trouble off the tee, so length is an advantage. But DeChambeau, if you're an outright better, betting an outright guy 7 or 8 to 1 is never worth a play. But he is somebody possibly to anchor around, a lineup in daily fantasy if you can find those gems that are a lot cheaper that you think will make the cut over the course of 4 days. If I'm going to choose one of the top guys on the outright betting market this week, John, I would probably go with Matsuyama. He's 19 to 1. So he's a little bit better than your DeChambeau, your Reed this week. He hasn't made a lot of noise since his Masters win, but he also hasn't completely sucked either. He's made the cut in all 4 starts. He finished tied for 26th at the U.S. Open, tied for 23rd at the PGA. He's always one of the best ball strikers on tour. Right now, he ranks 18th in shots gained tee to green. He's just notoriously bad on the greens. But, all it takes for him is just to be average on the putting green for 4 days, which is what he did at the Masters, and he can win. He's number 3 in this field over the last 3 months in strokes gained tee to green, behind only Patrick Reed and Keegan Bradley, actually. This being a stock par 72 course, it's, it boasted insanely low numbers. The winning scores each of the last 2 years was in the 20s. You got to take advantage of the par 5s. Obviously, DeChambeau is going to be one of those guys you think of immediately with his length on par 5s, and rightfully so. But Matsuyama's pretty damn good, too. He ranks number 18 on tour this year in par 5 scoring. So if I'm picking anybody in that top range, he's probably the guy I'm circling just because I think he's got, I'll air quote here, a little value at his price. But otherwise, I'm avoiding that top range.
Yeah, I think the hole that's going to be interesting to watch is number 4, 635 yards, par 5, longest hole in the course. And what's interesting too is the hole before it actually is part of the South course, and they're actually blending in a one hole from that 18 to include in this one. And this hole has some danger. Number 4, 635. If Bryson goes for it, it's going to be fun to watch. I guess the question is, if he's hitting an iron into a 635-yard par 5, that I guess that would be the fun part. You could probably have a betting odds on that too. But that's the one hole I think, a 6 is definitely possible if you go for it in 2, and you get into a mess.
Yeah,
and that's going to be a pivotal hole, I guess, even on the last day.
Yeah, I agree.
Matsuyama, I definitely like that pick. And, Patrick Reed, like, how can a guy like this fly under the radar? But he's just like steady Eddie all of a sudden. Each week, he's just grinding it out. Nobody's accusing him of cheating in the sand traps anymore, and that's a good thing. And I just don't think if he was a little bit cheaper, I think I'd be on him too. Just food for thought. But moving down the list now, looking at DraftKings odds, it does kind of have a precipitous drop. Like you said, you have DeChambeau, Reed, Matsuyama, Webb Simpson, Joaquin Neiman at 22-1, Jason Day 25, and then it starts to really accelerate into the 30s and the 40s. Like Keegan
Mm-hmm.
Bradley, as you mentioned, is 45-1,
Yep.
8-1 top five, 4-1 top 10. So that's got to be a good value bet right there. Who else do you see on the list moving down?
The next guy I have circled this week, it's not that much lower. He's at 30-1 right now. Is Kokrak. Um, the big fella. He's been playing great all year. He's got 2 wins. He takes advantage of the par fives as well because he's long. He's 23 in driving distance, so he's 13th in par five scoring because of that. He's coming off a miscut at the U.S. Open, which was only his 4th in 20 starts this year, but it was his first since November, which was 13 straight cuts made before he missed that cut, and he won. Ironically enough, at the Charles Schwab in his previous start before the U.S. Open. He's finished top 25 in nearly half the events played, 9 of 20 events, including 5 top 10s. Another big reason I like him this week is putting. The winner here is going to have a hot putter because, like I said before, the past 2 winners were 20 under par, so you're going to have to make birdies in bunches this week. He ranks number 2 on tour in strokes gained putting this season, and he's number 12 on tour in birdie average, which is actually that's ranked the highest of this field. The top 11 in birdie average aren't in this field, so he's the number 1 ranked in this field as far as birdie average per round. And again, you're going to have a hot putter. I don't care how well you hit it. To get to 24, 23, 25 under par, whatever it's going to be, whatever it's going to take, you're going to have to be hot with the putter all week and make a ton of birdies. So he's got good numbers on the greens, and I think he's worth a look at 30-1. I'd like him a little deeper there, but top heavy field, you're not going to get a longer price on him. So I think he's pretty decent here this week.
Yeah, I would agree. And then in the DraftKings, we're always looking at I feel the most important players to pick. It's not necessarily the top ones. It's the ones between that 6,000 and 7,000. I'm sorry, the 7,000 and 8,000 range.
Absolutely.
But this week there might be some guys down there below 7,000 that really all you want them to do is make the cut. So between 7,000 and 8,000 roughly, or even 80 up to 8,500, who do you think the gems are in that slice of players?
In that range, I'm looking for guys that are, strokes gained approach iron players that are going to do well. You got guys. They're going to be a lot of unknowns unless you're following. Chris Kirk is a very popular pick in this range. He's just his strokes gain numbers on his approach are very, very good. You also have Doug Gim is another guy. These are in the very low 7,000 price range. Another guy that's just, he's week in, week out, not going to be making a lot of noise or not going to be on most people's radar, but he's got strong iron strokes gains number. So he's worth a look. And I would probably go with a couple other guys. They're a little tougher to predict here, but you got like Alex Noren has been very consistent. He's a little higher at 7,600. He's been very consistent. Kyle Stanley, who I will mention a little bit later I like him as an outright play this week. I think he's got a good price this week at 7,600. So those are a couple of the guys in the 7,000 range that I think you could throw in your lineups and most likely, especially Kyle Stanley, most likely be able to get through to the weekend.
Yeah, I love it because right there, that just helps me. And guys, gals in the chat room, I mean, you write these names down, and when you do your lineups, I do anywhere from 3 to 5 to 7, depending on the event.
Mm-hmm.
This week might be only 3 or 4, but I can assure you that these names are now very much on my radar. One that you didn't mention that I just kind of have an eyeball on is Varner.
Okay.
But
yeah.
He's not a real good putter, though, is he?
No, but these are the type of events he usually does pretty well in, these weaker field events. And he can, anybody, he can get pretty hot with the putter. Overall, he doesn't have great putting numbers, but I think Varner's a decent look. He's, I think he was around 78 or 77, right, Hunter, something like that.
Yep.
So I think he's a good play this week. I do like Varner.
And I believe he's 7,000 on the nose at DraftKings.
Okay.
Or if not 7,000, it's low 7,000. So it looks pretty cheap, but something telling me there's maybe there's better names out there other than him. So what do you have for us next here, Nick?
I just mentioned Kyle Stanley
Yep.
as one of the sleepers here. On the outright market, he's 85-1, and I think he's worth a shot this week on that. He's been pretty consistent this year, 17 cuts made in 23 starts, including 6 straight. He's never been in real contention this year, but he does have 2 top 10 finishes, including he was tied for 8th just last month at the Charles Schwab. In this field, though, he ranks number 4 in strokes gained T degree over the last 3 months. He's ahead of guys like DeChambeau, Webb Simpson, Zalatoris. So when I saw him at the top of that list, I'm like, oh, okay, that's something. He ranks number 16 on tour in greens in regulation. And although he did miss the cut here last year, he did finish tied for 21st in 2019. So he's a guy, 85-1. Is he going to win? Probably not. But 7-1 top 10, not too bad. And 3-1 for a top 20 is pretty decent too. So when you go longer down the list, I always like to say, back up the outright play with maybe one of the leaderboard plays, so you can split up your bet a little bit there and hopefully cover your butt, so to speak.
Yeah, I guess he would be in the range of a sleeper, I guess. I don't know if those are correct words or not, but are there any other sleepers that you see that are can appear on that Sunday first page of the leaderboard?
Yeah, I'll throw one. I'll call it an extra long shot out there. I was on him last week for a top 20 finish. He fell off on Sunday, but he was there all week. Is Satoshi Kodera, 160-1 this week, 14-1 for a top 10, or plus 650 for a top 20. I mentioned taking him last week. I had him 11-1 for a top 20, which I thought was great value. He was the first round leader last week. He shot 7 under on Thursday. He was in the top 20 all week until 73 on Sunday. Saw him fall to tie for 36. But that's now 4 straight cuts made with finishes of 11th, 13th, 19th, and then that 36. So he had 3 straight top 20s going into that event and just fell off on Sunday. People probably don't remember, but he was ranked in the top 30 in the official World Golf Rankings not too long ago. So, he looks like he's starting to return to form. And at that price, I got to throw some money on him. I mean, it's going to fall off probably if he has another decent week this week. I think those prices are really going to go away. I mean, he already lost half the value. He was 11-1 last week on a top 20. This week he's plus 650, so he's losing value pretty quickly. And he ranks number 13 in this field in total strokes gained over his last 20 rounds. So pretty solid for a guy listed at 160-1 or even 14-1 for a top 10. To put in perspective, 14-1 in a top 10 is double the value of Bryson DeChambeau to win the damn thing. So, he's a long shot guy I like.
I'm just scanning through here. Cameron Champ is another guy that bombs it, but putting is a huge issue.
He's been awful,
And you can hit it a mile, but if you're hitting it where you don't know where it's going, I mean, we've seen what happens with that. But in comparison, I mean, there's no comparison between him and Kyle Stanley right now, and they're both lined at about the same price.
Yeah,
Crazy.
yeah, correct. I mean, Champ has been nowhere near a leaderboard all of 2021. In the fall, he had a couple good results, but since calendar turn in 2021, he's definitely got more missed cuts than he does made cuts. That's for sure.
And of course, it wouldn't be a show if we didn't talk about Phil, who is in this event too. I guess he's never going to really play on the senior tour all that much. And why should he? I mean, I get the whole point. I'm at that age now where I'm still playing the tips, Nick.
Yeah.
And I can still handle it, but it's getting tougher and tougher. And, my sons are starting to blow it past me. And, when you have to hit the second shot and they're 80 yards ahead of you, it starts to wake you up. But I enjoy the game so much better from that tips than and I guess it's not. I don't think it's an ego thing either, but maybe it is. But Phil is. I can relate to it. Why go to the senior tour when you can play the big boys tour and win? And compete.
Phil said he's going to stay here as long as he continues to hit bombs. Was his exact words.
Well, we saw a bomb on number 16 at Kew of 360 yards, so I don't think he's going to lose that distance anytime soon.
Yep, agreed.
So, do you think he's a play this week, like for he's probably not a play to win or top 10 or top 20 even, but is he a guy that you think can make the cut, for a DraftKings lineup? Because he is pretty cheap this week.
I think he's always going to be a guy that is worthy of a look at a cut made or a matchup type of a play. There's very few times I think that I'm going to really get behind him, to win. I think the problem is that, with the win at the PGA like he had, at least for the next, half a dozen or 10 starts for him, he's going to have value taken away from him. So on that type of market, I'm probably going to avoid him. But yeah, I think for a cuts made type of a market, I think there's decent way to bet him. Or again, and if you look at matchups, whatever your book's offering for matchups, probably worth a look there to see who he's up against.
Is there any one matchup? Because I know you have your premium card over at WagerTalk.com, which you guys should definitely go over and buy every single week. Because I'm telling you, it's helped me make a lot of money, and it's greatly appreciated too. And it doesn't cost that much. You're not asking for an arm and a leg to get some money-making information that can translate into a ton. I mean, it really can. No guarantees, but it can translate into a ton. So in terms of a matchup, is there one that you want to highlight here on the show?
Sure. Yeah, $29, John, is the package for the week, and that's all outright plays, leaderboard plays, and matchups, which is, this is where your bigger bets are going to be, highlighted is with these matchups. And one matchup, when I look at matchups, I like to look at a lot of people that, I look at recent results first, and I look at guys that pop up on a leaderboard that we haven't talked about in quite a while, because what tends to usually happen in that situation is they get way overpriced. And one of those players this week for me is Mackenzie Hughes. Hughes, everybody remembers 2 weeks ago at the U.S. Open, he was right there in contention. He ended up shooting 77 on Sunday, which saw him fall to tie for 15th, which was his first top 20 since January, right? So before his strong U.S. Open finish, he missed 5 straight cuts, and then he followed up the U.S. Open last week with a tie for 76th at the Travelers, which was the second worst of those that did make the cut. On the season, he's got 9 missed cuts in 23 starts. He's a terrible ball striker. He ranks number 180 in both strokes gained off the tee and approach. And he's 144 in total strokes gained, losing minus 0.23 strokes per round. So a guy that, again, he's being priced, and in the matchup this particular week, he's going against Lucas Glover. He's being priced a lot higher than he should be because everybody remembers him, at that major. Glover, he missed the cut in his last start at the Palmetto Championship, which was 3 weeks ago, which is notable for me because he's been very good in starts following at least 2 weeks off. He finished tied for 8th at the Charles Schwab, tied for 33rd at the Heritage, and 4th at the Valero Texas Open in the last 3 instances where he was at least 2 weeks off prior to playing again. That miscut at the Palmetto Championship was just his 3rd in his last 12 starts, to go along with 3 top 20s, including 2 top 10s. Compared to Hughes, Glover's much more respectable in all the ball striking categories: 42nd strokes gained tee to green, 57th strokes gained around the green, and 53rd in total strokes gained. So, both short-term and long-term this year, Glover has been the better player, more consistent player. But again, most people have short-term memories, and they saw Hughes on that leaderboard on Sunday at the U.S. Open, and I think it was lightning in a bottle. I don't think it's going to strike twice, and I think even money right now, Mackenzie Hughes is favored, minus 120, compared to Lucas Glover at even money. I think that's just a home run of a matchup play.
Well, I agree with you, and I'm looking over at DraftKings. So, guys and gals in the chat room, you got to make sure you look at all the different sites that you have an account. The more you have, the better you can shop, the better everything. And they actually have him playing Matt Jones, and I think this is a shocker. Matt Jones is actually a minus 143 favorite over Mackenzie Hughes at plus 110, and I think that's still. I don't like to lay the wood like that, but Matt Jones, I think, just crushes him. You said he's 180th tee to green?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's been terrible ball striking. And Matt Jones you're right, he's been a very consistent player all year long. And, he's got the win. He won it back March, the Honda. So, yep. He's a guy that's been a lot more consistent and at least making the cut a lot more consistently than Hughes. So I like that one too.
Yeah, I don't know why DraftKings would have paired him up against Matt Jones like that. They know they're going to probably get money on Matt Jones, but still, I think at 143, it's still pretty cheap.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a bad price.
And one last question for you. I was taking a digging a little bit down the rabbit hole with Jason Kokrak and his distance.
Okay.
And DraftKings has a player prop for every one of them, actually, that they will make an eagle in the first round. He's 5.5 to 1 plus 550 that he will make one. Do you think that's reasonable? Do you think that's pizza money bet?
He's got the length. I mean, there's no reason that he couldn't. It's four. He's got four chances on that first round. I mean, if you're going to bet anybody, I'm sure like a guy like DeChambeau is probably priced at 2 or 3 to 1, which I think is dumb. Eagles aren't.
He's 4.
Yeah, 4 to 1. Okay, they don't come that often, but 5.5 to 1's a little bit better value. I mean, he hits it far enough. That's all. That's what I can say for sure. You're always taking a risk for sure. Pizza money is the way I would go. Don't bet big on it, but yeah, I don't mind it.
There's about 15 golfers listed here. This is pretty interesting too. That to make an eagle, these 15 are 7 to 1 or lower. So I guess one of those par fives other than number 4, because I think realistically the eagle's going to occur on 3 of those par fives. Ruling out number 4 because it's 635 yards, and that really limits the field. But it's interesting that there is this many that are priced at 7 to 1 or less.
That's over the course of the whole tournament, I would imagine.
Just round 1.
Just round 1. Okay.
Yeah. And that tells you right there that it's going to be another, birdie fest. For
Correct.
sure.
Last year I was reading DeChambeau, again, I forget now his score. He was 25 under or something like that. He had, so over the course of 4 days, he got 16 par fives. He had something like 12 birdies, 1 eagle. So it just proves that, the Eagles are hard to come by. 1 eagle, 2 pars, and 1 bogey. So that's what you're going to have to do on those par fives. But just again, a point to bring up that the Eagles, even though they got length, they are hard to actually come through. And he only had 1 last year in that 25 under win.
Well, based on that, I'm going to stay away from it in round 1. If it was for the whole tournament, I'd be interested. But I guess that puts the books at risk because, when these pros have 4 days to get an eagle, it's probably likely that a lot of them are going to do that.
Yeah, get one of them. Yeah, agreed.
Yep. So if you don't have anything else for golf, I am interested to know, with the excitement that's going on in the Euro 2020, real quick with the minutes we have left. Some of these upsets, I'm a beginner at this. I've been at, this business 27 years, mainly in the NFL, college football, NBA. But finally, I've had guests on the show that have been talking to me about Euro 2020, the Champions League between Chelsea and Man City, and I'm starting to become a real fan. And I could not believe that upset between France and Switzerland. It was Switzerland, right? Yeah.
Yep.
And how that game went. It was 2 to 1, 3 to 1. You think, all right, we're in the 80th minute. I'm ready to start Manny's Pub. It's 4 o'clock Monday through Friday. And all of a sudden, you can tell on my show, the Manny's Pub show, when guys are looking up like this, they're looking at their TV to see what the score is of these games.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden it goes in that shootout or the penalty. They call it the penalty time.
Yep.
And 9 out of 9 on the Switzerland side. And that, I felt awful for that guy from France. I mean, they're the defending champs. And it just seems like it's an upset city type of tournament here in the knockout round. I'm just wondering, what you're thinking here going forward.
Yeah, I mean, the knockout stage is always different, and you're rubbing salt in my wound because I did fantastic in the 3 rounds of the group stage, and then this last round I got smoked. I had both Spain and France. You talk about a day of just I want to forget forever. I had Spain and France. Both were up 3 to 1. Both blew the leads, and Spain at least won in extra time. But when you're betting these knockout games, you're betting only the 90 minutes, so the extra time doesn't count. So I had France, I had Spain. Both those were 3 to 1. All right, those are easy winners. 9 out of 10 times, both lost in the same day. So, thanks, John. I just got over it.
I didn't mean that really. I didn't know.
I just teasing.
Yeah, I understand. I was, also hoping that you might have avoided that because I don't think too many, from what
Like,
I'm
yeah,
hearing, did.
no, I was not.
That stuff. Like I took a flyer. I mean, a real flyer, pizza money, that France in extra time, and I thought that was just so unlikely to happen. But I was getting 850 to 8.5 to 1, and I figured, well, why not?
Sure.
And of course, that didn't even win.
Listen, that's a great bet once
Yep.
they went to extra time because what's the likelihood of Switzerland actually still winning? And you were in a good position there when you went to extra time.
I thought so. You would have thought they'd turn on the Jets now and wake up, but that
Yeah.
apparently they didn't play very good defense in the midfield and just allowed them to.
Hmm.
It was almost like they were playing what I guess Tony Finn would call willy nilly, and I guess that means without focus.
Yeah.
But of the other teams remaining, do you have any like futures bet? Like
I,
is there any team that's left that's sticking out there that could just walk away with this?
all three of my futures bets that I took before the tournament are alive, so I'm happy with
Good.
that. I have Denmark. I had 25 to 1. Um, Carmine Bianco, WagerTalk, who we do well soccer shows with, he took them after the round two. They were 0-2, and all they needed to do was win that last match. They were over 50 to 1, as high as 75 to 1 at that point. So he's got a much better position on them than I do because I took them pre-tournament, but I just didn't want to put any more on them. So Denmark is a play I have. They look good. They got Czech Republic. They can win again. I also took Italy, who look very, very good. They have a tough matchup this week though against Belgium on Friday. And then I also have England, who came through, clutch yesterday against Germany. So I'm happy with those three positions right now. At this point, getting into the futures market, you got to look at, like, if you don't have anything and you're trying to, jump in there right now, you got to look at who's likely to make the final based on the path that they have, not necessarily, just going, oh, there's 8 teams left. England I like a lot. Let me just choose them. Well, look quickly at, the bracket that's laid out in front of you and see, all right, who are they potentially going to play? Because that's going to be the way you're going to get a team to the final. If they get to the final, then you're going to have a good chance. But on that side of the bracket, Denmark side, and the Denmark at 10 to 1 is probably my favorite play on that side. They got Czech Republic first, and then they would play the winner of England Ukraine. But England's only 2 to 1 right now, so to me, you can't really bet them at this point. But Denmark is a decent spot on that side, just because at 10 to 1 it's still got a little bit. You'll probably beat Czech Republic, and then you just got to get past England. But at 10 to 1 against England, you probably have a way to hedge out in that matchup as well.
Sure. Yeah, I'm really impressed with Italy. The chemistry that team, you immediately see it, and it seems like the media is saying they're playing much better than at any time anybody's ever seen them play. But you can see instantly, even from a novice like me, that the team likes each other. Locker room chemistry, for lack of a better word, is excellent, and they are definitely a team that I wouldn't be surprised to see if they see them win it. But I'm not a soccer expert. But I am pleased to let you know Carmine and Andrew McGinnis are going to make their debut later today.
Nice.
And down the road, we definitely we'll make it a foursome, to use the golf term, and have some fun with that, because that's a cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'll be live at noon, by the way.
Okay.
So make sure everybody tunes back for that one. That'll be the next show, and that's really all I have. Do you have any final thoughts? Any special deals going on at Wager Talk right now?
Just that package up right now for the golf tournament, $29 for the all 4 days of action. I'll have some daily plays added, throughout the 4 days as well. And I do have a 5% play loaded up for one of the quarterfinal matchups for the Euro tournament, one that I like a lot. So you can head over to my page at wagertalk.com, check those out right now. And of course, I'll have some daily ads over the next 10 days for Wimbledon when I find some spots that I like.
Yeah, make sure you get over there, guys, and get it. Okay, that's all I'm going to tell you. That's the promo for today. You're not going to make a mistake doing it. It's much better, by the way, to get a subscription. Don't get one play. Don't despise 5%er, because we all know, and we're fully transparent at Wager Talking Sports Memo, sometimes things don't go right, like France and Switzerland, and it's just mind-blowing. That doesn't mean the guy made a bad bet and he doesn't know what he's doing. It's just one day, one pick.
Yep.
There's 365 days in the year, the last time I checked. So anyway, Nick, I appreciate your time here. I know you have another show to do already this morning. We're pre-recording this, by the way, at 8 o'clock, and it's about 8:30 right now. So I'll let you go. And on behalf of Nick, myself, WagerTalk.com, and the Predictive Playbook, may all the wins be yours.